Hello, esteemed gentlemen. You cannot force a wild river to flow in a straight line, and you cannot force a Sigma man to belong. Here's a fact that might make you sit up. Over 70% of people conform to societal expectations simply to avoid discomfort, criticism, or being left out. They chase approval, follow trends, and measure success by how visible they appear. But not the Sigma. He doesn't care about fitting in, blending with the crowd, or checking the boxes everyone else obsesses over. In a world that runs on popularity contests and social validation, he's the glitch in the system, the man who refuses to perform, and the anomaly that quietly exposes the hollowness of ordinary life. Sigma men operate in ways most people can't see or understand. Their independence isn't rebellion, it's instinct. Their depth isn't intimidating, it's necessary. And their refusal to belong isn't arrogance, it's survival. They walk through life carrying a quiet power that disrupts routines, exposes hypocrisy, and makes people question everything they thought was normal. And here's the kicker. While everyone else is scrambling for likes, approval, and social applause, a Sigma man is busy building his own rules, his own lane, and his own world. Stick around, because what you're about to uncover isn't about personality types or self-help cliches. This is about why Sigma men never truly fit in, and why, once they see the truth of a fake world, they stop trying altogether. And yes, we'll throw in some moments that might make you smirk, because even a world that refuses to bend doesn't deserve to be taken that seriously. By the end of this, you'll see why trying to label, control, or understand a Sigma is like trying to herd smoke, and why that's exactly what makes them unstoppable. Number 1. His independence threatens people who need group validation to function. A Sigma man's independence is not just a personality trait, it's a quiet disruption. Most people rely on constant social feedback to feel grounded. Likes, approval, attention, group acceptance, emotional reassurance. Their confidence is built like a building supported by scaffolding. Take away the external support, and they don't know who they are anymore. But a Sigma's confidence comes from a place they can't touch. He doesn't need a committee to validate his choices or a crowd to confirm he's doing the right thing. That level of internal strength makes people uncomfortable, even if they don't admit it. When someone isn't dependent on the group loses its power over them. And this is where the tension starts. People who survive on collective validation simply can't understand a man who operates outside their emotional economy. They want to know what motivates him, who influences him, or what praise he's chasing. When they realize he's not chasing anything or anyone, they get confused. Confusion slowly turns into insecurity, and insecurity turns into subtle hostility. They view his independence as arrogance, even though he's not trying to impress or belittle anyone. They interpret his detachment as judgment, even when he's just minding his business. They think he's rejecting them personally when the truth is he's not even thinking about them. His freedom highlights how trapped they feel in their own dependence. His ability to stand alone becomes a mirror exposing how much they rely on others to feel whole. Deep down, many people resent him because he represents the version of themselves they wish they had the courage to be. Someone who does not break down without approval. Someone who does not need witnesses to feel significant. Someone who can walk away without losing himself. That's why Sigma men rarely fit in. They don't give the group the one thing it secretly demands: emotional submission. And when a man refuses to kneel to social validation, the world doesn't know how to categorize him. So it labels him as distant, strange, or intimidating. Not because he's wrong, but because he's free. Number 2, he doesn't need people to think he's good. He needs himself to know he's real. A Sigma man learned early that the world rewards performance, not truth. Most people shape their behavior around how they want to be perceived: kind, cooperative, moral, humble, impressive. They build their identity from how others react to them, always adjusting, always polishing, always managing their public reputation. But a Sigma doesn't care about being labeled good. He cares about being genuine, and that alone separates him from society's expectations. When your only priority is being real, you automatically break the rules that keep everyone else liked. You speak honestly, even when the truth is uncomfortable. You set boundaries even when it makes people upset. You walk away from situations everyone else tolerates out of fear of looking difficult. A Sigma man won't play nice just to avoid judgment. He won't pretend to be harmless, soft, predictable, or agreeable just to fit into a world that expects men to shrink themselves. This commitment to authenticity is powerful but dangerous. People who don't know who they are rely on maintaining a socially acceptable identity. They need to be seen in a positive light to feel stable. So when they encounter a man who doesn't care about praise or approval, they panic a little. He exposes the truth they try to hide, that their goodness is often a strategy, not a principle. A Sigma doesn't bend his values to keep the peace. He doesn't sugarcoat his intentions to seem polite. He doesn't decorate his personality to appear more likable. He lives in alignment with what he believes, even when no one is watching. That's why he can sleep at night. His conscience is shaped by his own standards, not by social pressure or guilt. And this is exactly why he never truly belongs. The world is built around collective judgment, not individual integrity. The world wants men who perform goodness, not men who practice truth. A Sigma refuses to trade authenticity for acceptance. He would rather stand alone with a clean inner world than stand with the crowd wearing a fake halo. For him, being real is not an option. It's his entire identity. Number 3. He realizes true belonging isn't found, it's built. A Sigma man eventually understands that searching for belonging in society is like searching for depth in a shallow pool. Most people join groups not because they genuinely connect, but because they fear being alone. They settle for environments that don't match their values. They tolerate personalities that drain them. They stick around because belonging is supposed to be given, not created. But a Sigma doesn't accept this idea. He learns, often through harsh experiences, that real belonging can't be inherited, offered, or borrowed from a crowd. It has to be built from the ground up, with the right people, the right energy, and the right purpose. He stops trying to force himself into places that feel wrong. He stops shrinking to fit in. He stops trying to bend his identity to match the mood of the group. Instead, he focuses on building a life that reflects who he truly is, not who society expects him to be. That shift changes everything. Once he realizes he can construct his own environment, mentally, emotionally, and socially, the urge to belong anywhere else dies naturally. The world rewards conformity, not self-construction. So people treat him like he's the problem when he refuses to accept shallow friendships or environments filled with gossip, insecurity, and fakery. They think he's antisocial, distant, or arrogant. What they don't see is that he's choosing quality over noise. He's choosing alignment over acceptance. He's choosing self-respect over social convenience. And when a Sigma builds his world, he doesn't build it with crowds in mind. He builds it for emotional peace, intellectual honesty, and personal evolution. Only people who can respect that energy can enter it. Everyone else falls away, not because he pushes them out, but because they have no place there. This is why he stops trying to fit in. He knows belonging in the wrong place costs a man more than loneliness ever will. Belonging without authenticity is just another form of self-betrayal. So he creates his own lane, his own rules, his own circle, even if it stays small. For him, a life he builds himself is worth more than a world he had to shrink to fit into. Number 4, He's immune to social guilt, the tool society uses to keep men under control. A Sigma man doesn't fold under guilt the way most people do, and that alone makes him a threat in a world designed to control through obligation and expectation. Society has a subtle language that constantly whispers what you should do, how you should behave, and who you should be loyal to. Most men feel this pressure like an invisible leash. They go along, even when it grates on their soul because being rejected, criticized, or excluded terrifies them. Guilt is the most effective way society enforces compliance, and it works on those who derive their self-worth from external approval. A Sigma doesn't operate this way. He knows that guilt is a mechanism of control, and he refuses to internalize it. When someone says, "You should be there," "You owe them this," or "That's your responsibility," he doesn't collapse under the weight of implied moral obligation. He evaluates each demand logically. Does it align with my principles? Does it serve a meaningful purpose? If the answer is no, he steps away. He doesn't need to explain himself, defend himself, or apologize for refusing to bend. That immunity to guilt makes him unpredictable to those who rely on conformity to maintain order. Because he cannot be manipulated with social pressure, people see him as distant, difficult, or even cold. They assume he doesn't care about relationships, family, or society, when the truth is he cares too much about his own alignment to compromise it for approval. His choices are deliberate, not reactionary, and that level of self-possession is foreign to anyone who measures value through collective consent. This immunity also frees him in ways most men never experience. He makes decisions without the constant mental tug-of-war between desire and obligation. He walks his own path without shame, without fear, and without the invisible chains society tries to slip onto every man. He understands that the price of autonomy is often judgment, isolation, or misunderstanding, but he pays it willingly because the cost of surrendering himself to guilt is far higher. In a world built to control through moral manipulation, a Sigma man simply refuses to be a puppet. Number 5. He knows his presence can disrupt social balance, so he limits it. A Sigma man understands something most people never realize. His presence is disruptive, not because he seeks to cause chaos, but because he operates on a different frequency. People live in carefully constructed patterns of expectation: what to say, how to act, who to follow, who to ignore. Most social environments run on subtle rules designed to keep everyone predictable and comfortable. When a Sigma enters the room, none of that applies. He doesn't need approval, he doesn't perform for attention, and he doesn't conform to social scripts. That alone makes others uneasy. He has learned that people project their insecurities, ambitions, and hidden judgments onto him. A quiet glance, a simple observation, or a refusal to participate in meaningless games can throw an entire group off balance. People instinctively react to him because he exposes the fragility of their own conformity. He doesn't provoke, but he doesn't reassure either. He doesn't play the role they expect, and that's enough to make them defensive. Rather than engage unnecessarily, he limits his presence. He understands that his energy is powerful, and power is a responsibility. He chooses when to be visible, when to influence, and when to remain unseen. This is not avoidance. It's strategic. He doesn't waste himself on shallow crowds or environments that drain him emotionally. He recognizes that forcing himself into spaces that aren't aligned with his values creates friction, and friction is wasted energy. By stepping back, he observes, evaluates, and interacts only when it serves a meaningful purpose. He lets the world operate on its superficial currents, while he moves through life with precision, conserving his energy for the people, projects, and moments that matter. To outsiders, This may look like distance or detachment, but in reality, it's mastery. He understands that the true impact of a Sigma isn't measured by constant visibility or loud influence. It's measured by presence at the right moment with the right effect. Limiting himself doesn't weaken him. It intensifies his value, his control, and the quiet fear or respect he inspires without ever needing to assert it. Number 6. He rejects the performance-based identity. Everyone else accepts. Most people live their lives performing for approval. They carefully craft personalities, opinions, and behaviors to fit what others expect. Every smile, joke, and achievement is filtered through the lens of, how will this make people see me? Social media, work, friendships, even family dynamics become stages where they constantly rehearse, edit, and present themselves. This constant performance is exhausting for them, but it's invisible to most because they believe it's normal. A Sigma man doesn't play this game. He doesn't construct an identity to win favor or avoid criticism. He doesn't adjust his behavior to blend in, and he doesn't mold himself to match social expectations. That refusal to conform makes him appear strange, distant, or even threatening to people who have built their lives around perception management. He is the glitch in a world where authenticity is rare and compliance is rewarded. Because he rejects the performance-based identity, he experiences freedom that others rarely taste. He doesn't need applause, validation, or external affirmation to feel complete. His decisions, actions, and words are driven by his internal compass, not by a desire to manipulate perception or gain social approval. That independence is both powerful and isolating. People are drawn to it, but often cannot understand it. This rejection also forces others to confront their own inauthenticity. When a Sigma man simply exists without pretense, it exposes the layers of performance everyone else relies on to feel safe. People feel unsettled because he's not playing by invisible rules they assume are universal. His presence reminds them that most of the masks they wear are optional, yet they cling to them desperately. In a world where identity is currency, he refuses to spend himself. He doesn't perform, he doesn't compromise, and he doesn't pretend. He simply is. That alone makes him unfit for social conformity, yet irresistibly magnetic to those who recognize the rare courage it takes to reject a life built on approval. Number 7. He withdraws. When he sees people worshipping mediocrity. A Sigma man has little tolerance for environments where laziness, gossip, or emotional weakness are celebrated. While most people try to fit in by applauding whatever the crowd finds acceptable, he sees the truth beneath the surface. He notices when people settle for comfort over growth, when they reward superficial charm over substance, or when they glorify effort without skill. This constant exposure to mediocrity irritates him, not in a petty way, but because he values excellence, authenticity, and personal responsibility above all else. When he sees people worshipping mediocrity, he doesn't argue. He doesn't try to prove them wrong. He simply withdraws. Most men expend enormous energy trying to change their environment, hoping that society or their social circle will recognize the value of hard work, integrity, or depth. A Sigma realizes this is a wasted effort. The people around him have chosen the shallow path willingly. Their admiration of mediocrity isn't a flaw to correct. It's a reflection of who they are. Trying to force them to change only diminishes his energy, and he doesn't have the time or patience for that. This withdrawal is not a sign of weakness. It's strategy. By stepping away, he preserves his mind, focus, and emotional resources for environments that challenge him, elevate him, and align with his standards. He doesn't seek conflict because he sees it as unnecessary friction. Instead, he quietly builds his own ecosystem, filled with people, ideas, and goals that meet his level of rigor. His absence is a statement. He refuses to legitimize mediocrity by participating in its celebration. Over time, this tendency makes him seem distant, intimidating, or even unapproachable. People interpret his withdrawal as pride or aloofness, but the reality is far deeper. He simply recognizes the futility of investing himself in spaces that honor the average. He values depth, skill, and integrity so highly that mediocrity is not just disappointing, it's toxic to his progress. To him, life is too short to applaud what isn't worth noticing, and anyone who worships mediocrity is not worth his presence. Number 8. He outgrows people faster than people. Outgrow bad habits. A Sigma man evolves at a pace that most people can't keep up with. He learns, adapts, and improves continuously, not because he's showing off or competing, but because stagnation is unacceptable to him. Most people operate on autopilot, repeating the same patterns, tolerating the same frustrations, and holding on to the same bad habits for decades. They measure success and growth by external markers, titles, possessions, social approval, rather than internal evolution. A Sigma measures it differently. He gauges his life by how much he understands himself, how far he's willing to push his limits, and how aligned his actions are with his principles. This rapid personal evolution makes relationships complicated. Friends, colleagues, even romantic partners often expect him to remain at the same level they are at, emotionally or intellectually. They assume he will follow the same routines, tolerate the same trivialities, and accept the same compromises. But he doesn't. When he sees people clinging to mediocrity or refusing to address their weaknesses, he doesn't waste energy dragging them forward. He simply moves ahead. Outgrowing people isn't about superiority, it's about survival. To remain in environments filled with stagnant energy is to risk regression, distraction, and frustration. A Sigma understands that life is finite and that time is one of the few things that can't be regained. So he surrounds himself with growth-oriented environments, ideas, and individuals, or he embraces solitude if none exist. This isn't always visible to outsiders. To them, it may look like abandonment, detachment, or even arrogance. But in reality, it's self-preservation. He doesn't wait for the world to catch up, and he doesn't apologize for leaving behind those who refuse to grow. He simply honors his own trajectory, understanding that his evolution is non-negotiable. Over time, this makes him appear isolated to some, exceptional to others, and untouchable to those who depend on conformity. He doesn't reject people out of malice. He rejects the limitations that holding on to them would impose. Growth is relentless, and a Sigma refuses to let anyone or anything slow him down. Number 9. He doesn't chase acceptance, so people don't know how to control him. A Sigma man doesn't live for approval. While most people constantly adjust themselves to fit in, to be liked, or to avoid confrontation, he moves according to his own rules and principles. He doesn't bend, perform, or manipulate to gain acceptance because he doesn't measure his worth by external validation. This makes him invisible to the usual levers of control. People don't know how to influence him because there's no desire, no need, and no fear that can be exploited. Most social dynamics are built on leverage. Approval, friendship, and belonging are all tools used to encourage compliance. When a man wants to be accepted, every compliment, every nod, every invitation becomes a subtle form of control. People can guide his decisions, shape his opinions, and predict his behavior because he craves their validation. A Sigma doesn't operate in that system. He doesn't seek applause, recognition, or affirmation. His actions are deliberate, grounded in personal alignment, not in the desire to be admired. This independence makes others uncomfortable. They instinctively want to place him within their social hierarchy, but he refuses to fit. He won't climb, compromise, or perform just to be noticed or approved. That refusal exposes the fragility of people who rely on controlling others to feel secure. He isn't manipulative, but his self-possession forces others to confront how little control they actually have over themselves, let alone over him. Because he cannot be steered by approval, he becomes unpredictable and intimidating. People mistake his neutrality for arrogance or detachment, but it's really discipline. He is free to act according to his own judgment, without interference, without needing permission, and without the pressure of belonging. That freedom is a kind of power few understand. In the end, he doesn't chase acceptance because he doesn't need it. His world is built around his own standards, his own rules, and his own understanding of reality. And in a society designed to reward conformity, refusing to chase acceptance is not just unusual, it's revolutionary. Number 10. He questions systems that people worship without thinking. A Sigma man doesn't take anything at face value. While most people follow rules, traditions, and societal structures because it's easier, safer, or simply expected, he examines everything critically. He doesn't blindly accept the things everyone else reveres, whether it's career ladders, social norms, cultural rituals, or moral hierarchies. He sees the cracks in systems that are presented as unshakable and understands the motives behind them. Where others see stability, he sees manipulation. Where they see respect, he sees compliance. This constant questioning makes him appear threatening to those who depend on the unquestioned status quo. People are comfortable in their routines because they don't want to challenge themselves or the structures they rely on. They rely on the illusion that following the rules guarantees safety, success, and belonging. A Sigma exposes that illusion simply by refusing to accept it. He asks the questions no one else dares to ask, not for rebellion's sake, but because truth is more important than comfort. He doesn't just question for the sake of being contrary. His skepticism is deliberate and strategic. He evaluates the real value, purpose, and consequence of every system, every expectation, and every belief. He doesn't worship prestige, title, or popularity because society does. He worships alignment, efficiency, and personal truth. This perspective isolates him because most people can't handle someone who doesn't nod in agreement or follow the correct path. They want affirmation, not analysis. His refusal to blindly follow creates tension, but it also grants him freedom. He is not bound by the limitations of outdated systems or hollow rituals. He can choose his own path, make his own rules, and operate in spaces where others are trapped by expectation. That independence is intimidating to many because it highlights how easily most people surrender their agency. In the end, his relentless questioning ensures he is never truly part of the herd. While others worship convenience, tradition, and approval, he pursues truth, even if it means standing alone. In a world full of unquestioning followers, a man who asks why becomes both extraordinary and untouchable. Number 11. He's too honest for people who rely on comfortable lies. A Sigma man doesn't sugarcoat reality to make life easier for others. While most people construct layers of polite deception, half-truths, or convenient illusions to navigate daily life, he deals in unfiltered honesty. He understands that lies, even small ones, are a form of control. They keep people comfortable, compliant, and predictable. Most people depend on these comfortable lies to feel safe. They tell themselves that mediocrity is enough, that mistakes can be ignored, or that relationships are deeper than they truly are. A Sigma sees through it all. His honesty is not cruel or performative. It isn't meant to hurt or assert dominance. It's a principle. He refuses to compromise his truth to make others feel better, and he refuses to participate in the illusions that most people treat as reality. This makes him difficult to categorize because he doesn't behave in ways that validate the lies others live by. People instinctively resist him because he exposes the cracks in their world. He doesn't tolerate pretense, gossip, or social facades. If someone is dishonest with themselves or with the world, he sees it immediately, and he doesn't pretend otherwise. He doesn't try to change them either. He knows that attempting to force truth on those who aren't ready is a waste of time and energy. Instead, he withdraws, focusing his attention on environments and people that align with authenticity. This relentless commitment to truth can be isolating. Most people interpret it as coldness, arrogance, or even recklessness. They fear his transparency because it forces them to confront uncomfortable realities they've been avoiding. Yet, for the Sigma, this clarity is liberating. He doesn't live in fear of social rejection or disapproval, because he isn't performing for anyone's comfort. In a world where lies are currency and social survival depends on illusion, a Sigma's honesty is revolutionary. He is a mirror to the falsehoods people cling to, a silent reminder that most of the world's harmony is built on deception. That's why he can't truly belong. His truth is too disruptive for people who rely on comfortable lies to navigate life. Number 12. He carries a depth. Most people can't swim. In a Sigma, man lives with a depth that most people can't even recognize, let alone engage with. His thoughts aren't shallow, his conversations aren't small, and his emotions aren't fleeting. He processes life on multiple levels at once. He analyzes motives, patterns, and outcomes while simultaneously understanding the emotional undercurrents of people and situations. This kind of depth is exhausting for those who operate at surface level. They rely on simplicity because complexity forces them to confront themselves, and most aren't willing to do that. This depth makes him naturally solitary, not because he dislikes people, but because few can keep pace with him intellectually or emotionally. Small talk, casual gossip, and performative interactions feel like distractions. He values substance, clarity, and honesty, and he instinctively gravitates toward experiences and relationships that meet those standards. When he encounters mediocrity, superficiality, or disingenuousness, it irritates him, not out of arrogance, but because it's a waste of energy. People often misunderstand him. His silence can be mistaken for aloofness, his observation for judgment, and his focus for detachment. They don't see the constant mental and emotional activity beneath the surface. They don't realize he is continuously processing, evaluating, and learning from everything around him. His depth gives him perspective that others lack, allowing him to anticipate motives, detect inconsistencies, and understand dynamics before they become obvious. This level of insight also makes him intimidating. Most people operate in their comfort zones, and someone who sees through the facade, understands unspoken truths, and carries himself with quiet authority is inherently unsettling. They sense there's more going on beneath his calm exterior, something they can't access, and that fear of the unknown pushes them away. A Sigma embraces this depth instead of diluting it to fit in. He doesn't apologize for being complex, and he doesn't compromise his inner world to make others comfortable. That's why he can't truly belong in conventional spaces. His mind and soul demand a realm where depth is recognized, or they remain unshared. He is rich internally, even if the world can't swim in his waters. The truth about Sigma men is that they exist in a world that wasn't designed for them. Their independence, depth, and relentless pursuit of personal truth set them apart in ways that most people can't fully comprehend. They don't fit into the boxes society hands out because they refuse to perform, to conform, or to compromise their inner standards for the sake of belonging. Where others see comfort in conformity, a Sigma sees stagnation. Where others seek approval, he seeks alignment. Where others fear solitude, He embraces it as a space to grow, think, and master himself. This is why Sigma men are both extraordinary and intimidating. They operate on a level most people can't access, and their very presence challenges the fragile structures that society clings to. They move silently, yet their impact is profound. They don't chase recognition, they don't crave applause, and they don't bend under social pressure. Their power is quiet, their ambition is relentless, and their authenticity is uncompromising. They live in alignment with their own standards, rejecting the superficiality and hypocrisy that define so much of modern life. This is what makes them rare, what makes them enigmatic, and what makes them impossible to categorize. A Sigma man doesn't merely survive in a fake world. He thrives by refusing to play its game, by building his own lane, and by holding himself accountable to principles that matter, not to people who don't. For anyone watching, understanding this isn't about idolizing Sigma men. It's about recognizing the courage, clarity, and conviction it takes to live life unbound by expectation. It's about seeing the value of independence, the strength in authenticity, and the freedom that comes from refusing to settle for mediocrity. If you found this insight powerful, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more content that dives deep into the mindset of Sigma men and the hidden truths about human behavior. Don't forget to like, comment, and share this video to spread these ideas with others who are ready to see beyond the surface. Your engagement helps bring these truths to those who are ready to understand them, and it ensures you never miss another deep dive into the world of extraordinary minds.